Welcome to Pep Talks with Eric, the podcast where self-work becomes system work. I'm your host, Eric Ayers, creator and author of SimRx, Transforming Healthcare, Leadership, and Culture by Design. This show is your space to shift perspectives, ignite action, and remember who you are and who we are in the process. Every week, we spark transformation, from burnout to breakthrough, from surviving to designing. You'll hear real stories, real tools, and real humans doing real work. So let's shift, let's build, and let's spark what's next together. I'll see you inside. Guys, welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Eric. I'm your host, Eric Ayers, and I'm super excited for our guest today. Randy McNeely is Captain Kindness. He is an amazing human being. Actually sent me his book, which I highly recommend. We're going to dive into this a little bit, but we had a fantastic conversation that led into more talk on Ubuntu, I am because we are, and how kindness ripples into the world and actually changes the world. So that's going to be the topic today. So Randy, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to meet with you, Eric. I appreciate you giving me this wonderful platform to share a little bit about my favorite subject, kindness.
So let's dive right in then. What got you to concentrate and talk about and actually own the persona of kindness?
Well, I'm a survivor of multiple forms of childhood abuse, and I look back and I think, as I've thought back on my life, I look back to critical junctures where it would have been really easy for me to just give up. And there were times when I seriously thought about giving up and just ending it. I wanted to take my life and just be done. I was tired of dealing with some of the challenges I had. But two things kept me from doing that. First of all, I have a belief in God, and I knew that He was there, and that if I did that, it would be totally offensive to Him. Because I firmly believe I'm a child of God. We're all children of God. And so taking that route would not be conducive to building that relationship. And the other thing that saved me was kindness, love delivered through kindness. I had friends and parents who reached out and put their arms around me during those times. And literally, in times, just the only thing that kept me going was them just reaching out and putting their arms around me, giving me a hug and letting me know that they loved me, that they saw me and they cared about me. So, what brought this to a head though, and really ignited me to move down where I've fully embraced the kindness persona, as Captain Kind Man and the kindness giver and stuff like that is. Back in 2019, there was a whole bunch of different shootings. In 2018, 2019, all this different violence and things going on in our country. And I just thought, I can't just sit idly by and do nothing. I'm one man. I have no idea what I can do, but I can do something. And if I influence one other person or two other people, and they go out and influence other people to do good, then I will have made a difference and fulfill my objectives to make this world a little bit brighter, a little bit happier, a little bit kinder, with a little more love.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for sharing that. And there was a theme that kind of highlighted that I gravitated towards, and that was action. So you said love delivered through kindness, right? So it's interesting as, coming from healthcare, coming from human service industries, like we all have emotions, but we see them, and I used to think of them as, the feelings that I get. But what happens when you take those feelings and act upon them? And that, I think, is the difference. And that's what I felt that you articulated there was, love delivered through kindness. It's a feeling delivered through another positive emotion, such as kindness, which is human connection, like the greatest tool for human connection, equals change.
And let me just throw this out there. Here's my definition of kindness. Kindness is love in action. That's the simplest definition. Kindness is love in action. And here's an expanded definition. Kindness is love in action, which embraces every behavior by which we show value and appreciation for ourselves and others. So everything that we can do, kindness is an action verb. It's, everything that we can do to show value and appreciation for ourselves and others is an act of kindness. And kindness is love's delivery agent. Without kindness, love isn't delivered. That's how people feel loved, when they feel valued and appreciated, when they feel like they've been seen and heard, and somebody actually knows that they're there, that they're seeing human beings that deserve to be valued and appreciated. We've all been in situations where we felt like we're just objects to somebody, and
Right.
and that's not a good feeling. And nobody likes to feel like I'm just an object, I'm something to be used and until my usefulness is done and then tossed aside.
Yeah.
Too often in life, my goodness, how often do we treat people that way? Unfortunately, in today's society, that's happening more and more. And that's why the conversation that we're having is so important. That's why what I'm doing and so many others are striving to do by promoting kindness is so vitally important right now.
I love the idea of kindness being the action verb. It's the, kind of the courier service to love, right? It's the delivery model. I absolutely love that. And how often, sometimes it's easier for us as humans to offer this to other people, but we don't offer it to ourselves. And how vitally important, even in your definition, you said to self and others. So self has a higher priority, not because of being selfish, but the idea of building self first allows us then the opportunity to overflow and to
Yeah.
others. So like if we're overflowing with kindness, like I can feel from you that kindness is now coming from our overflowed saucer instead of stealing, from what we need. And what a beautiful metaphor.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because you think about it, kindness does overflow, whereas anger and hatred are life suckers. They suck the energy out of the room. They suck the energy out of your heart, out of your mind, out of your soul. Whereas kindness brings in love, which expands our soul, expands our lives, expands the happiness and joy and light and hope and everything else that we feel. Kindness brings friends with it. When it delivers the love it delivers, it shows up with friends like gratitude and hope and joy and happiness. There is no happiness without love and kindness.
Right.
About it.
Right. Right.
And so as long as we're doing what we can to be light and love spreaders, as opposed to light suckers, dark purveyors and light suckers, then we're gonna be making a difference in this world.
Yeah. It's for some reason I saw the differences of a water hose that's providing light and nourishment to the world as opposed to a straw which is taking in, right? Yeah. So it's that. So like this season of the podcast is how do we take the self work that we've done, because we all have our own path, but we all have similar paths. We all have, as you identified, trauma,
Yeah.
various degrees of trauma. And that leads into what I love, Wayne Dyer would speak often about, is it becomes our curriculum to God, our curriculum for what we need to learn to become who we are. And after I met you, I was reliving, my journey and my curriculum, if you will. And I'm like, how amazing would it have been if kindness was infused in the very beginning? How much more self-forgiveness, how much more self-love, how much more of this calm learning environment as opposed to beating myself up. Therefore, I still go through the lessons. It's still hard, but what benefit would that have brought me? And I don't know, it could have been the same outcome, but I have a feeling based on what I know now, it would have softened it at least a little bit.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20.
For sure.
We can look back and say, I could have done this or could have done that, or something else could have been different. The key is that you're self-aware enough to recognize the fact that, if I ingrain kindness, if I infuse kindness into my life now, things are going to be better. I find it interesting. I was on a walk with my wife this morning. We're talking about kindness and how to scale kindness up and talking about various things. And I brought up the fact that, too often we hear from people that kindness is just weakness, and I've been trying for a while to come up with a concise response to that. And so, and here's a quick response to that. Well, okay, it's kindness is weakness. How many of you need to be able to build strong relationships of trust in order to succeed in your business or personally? And everybody's going to say, well, of course I do. I have to be able to do that. I said, is that possible? Is it possible to build strong relationships of trust based on unkindness? And the answer is absolutely not.
No.
You can't. So then, okay, so now explain to me how kindness is weakness. And they can't. What they do, they're conflating kindness and niceness. Nice people often go along to get along. They'll say, oh, well, when they're thinking that something is all, oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Or they come in and you see a project or something that somebody did, and oh, did that yourself, did you? Oh, so there's a big difference between kind and nice. Kindness is strength because it sees people as the amazing people that they are, and it sees the possibility in people.
Great point, because to me, weakness tends to be the emotions that are they're like, we can grab them at any moment because they are our survival go-tos.
Yeah.
That is weakness. Kindness is, when you get cut off in traffic or someone flicks you off or, someone like yells at you. And in nursing, we got yelled at a lot. It is very difficult to feel kindness and to respond with kindness. Total opposite of mirroring back their behavior, because that's weakness. That's easy.
It's easy to get angry.
It's super easy. Yeah.
Doesn't take any effort to handle and get angry.
Because our ego knows how to do that really well.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the Kindness Givers Formula 2.0, what led to the book?
Well, the summer of 2019, there was shootings in Texas, there were shootings in California, there were shootings all over the place, and other violence that I had this formula in my head prior to that, and I had listened to this amazing talk by John Maxwell, where he shared a similar formula, but for showing value every day, valuing people.
Right.
And he laid out his steps for valuing people. And I thought, I could take this and lay this out in steps for giving kindness every day. And I just did, when I determined that I wanted to do something to inspire greater kindness, and I had this formula that I'd written out in 4 steps at the time, I guess. I added another step later, but I had that formula, and I just thought, I could write a book about this. And I literally, I will state this till the day I die. That book was given to me by God. I sat down and wrote it within just a few weeks, tweaked it, and then published it. And the original version was just the Kindness Givers Formula. I put 2.0 together because I added another step. I added in some extra stories. I changed, a few things based on some experiences that I'd had since the original book was published. And, but that simple formula is an easy method for amplifying kindness in the world. You want me to share the 5 steps really fast?
Please do.
Okay. 5 steps, easy. Every day, get up and look in the mirror and think, I'm going to be a kindness giver today. Shift your mindset right to that. Think, I'm going to be a kindness giver, and I'm going to, and think of what I call your heart set. I'm going to feel inside that people deserve to be valued and appreciated. So When I look at people with that and see them as human beings, I can be a kindness giver. Second, think of and plan ways to be a kindness giver. Every day, we can stop and think, who am I going to be with? What am I going to be doing? Where am I going to be going? How am I going to be? And, where am I going to be? And think of simple ways that you can be kind in those situations. And I'm going to say potential ways, because no matter how well we plan out our day, nothing ever goes exactly as planned.
Right.
So
Right.
the third step is to look for and act on opportunities to be kind as they present themselves. The fourth step is to invite and encourage other people to do the same. And then the final step is, at the end of the day, take a few minutes and reflect on the experiences you had with kindness and record them. And there's an important reason for doing that. First of all, when we record stuff, it ingrains it more in our minds. But secondly, it's for two reasons. When our family later on reads those experiences, it can be a real booster to them, and inspire them. But for us, we can call it our rainy day picker-upper, if you will, because we all have days when we feel down or discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Go right back to that journal and read about those experiences and experience the same feelings of happiness that we experienced as if it had just happened. You can get what you call the dose: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, all released in our bodies, and feeling that happiness high that comes when we do something kind for somebody or somebody else does it for us. That simple formula, followed every day. Get up and think, I'm going to be a kindness giver. Think of and plan ways to be a kindness giver. Look for and act on opportunities to be a kindness giver. Invite and encourage others to be a kindness giver. And then reflect and record. That simple formula changes lives. It changes lives. And here's the thing is, I teach a method called identify, clarify, and amplify. Like I said in the definition, that kindness embraces every behavior by which we show value and appreciation for ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time to identify what are those behaviors. And then take some time to clarify, okay, I've identified these behaviors. What are the steps to putting them into practice? What are the things what does it really mean to listen? What does it really mean to say thank you? What does that mean? It's some simple thing. And then amplify. Take that kindness giver's formula that I just said and amplify those behaviors through that kindness formula as you go out in the day. And it'll change your life, it'll change other people's lives, and it'll change the lives of people who observe what you're doing.
Right. Right. And a lot of times the observation is the biggest tool, right?
Yeah.
It's the mirrored behavior that we offer. Couple things on this that is so profound, at least from my perspective. One, what I've found is the simpler the plan, the more profound the outcomes. So you said a couple of times, this simple plan. Well, just because it's simple doesn't mean there's decreased energy behind the outcomes of this. Like, the simple is meaning you can actually do this, right? It's not a algebraic equation or, calculus equation that we
not rocket science.
Right. The other thing is, this is a plug and play formula into anything we want to attract into our life and we want to begin to represent.
Yeah.
So once we nail down this, it's okay. This is now our new habit. And I'm glad you brought the science of the dose in, because this is how we create habits. This is how we create habitual habits that automate our daily lives. Therefore, we go and we move other things. So when we shift and we intentionally do this, we're creating a positive habitual pattern that now we can plug into, okay, we have the kindness down pat, or we're continuing to learn on that. Now, what do I want to focus on? Where do I want to put my attention? Where do I want to plan? And go through the steps. And at the end of the day, be like, okay, what worked, what didn't? Tomorrow, how do we make this even better? And keep working on it. And because then it's, how does it work for me?
Keep polishing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Keep practicing. Yeah, people ask me, I'm just kind. I don't need to practice. We all need to practice.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's perfect at being kind.
Yes.
And just ask my kids. Good, Paul. I
Well,
mean,
it's like anything that we do, any skill that we do, whether it is, in healthcare, the skills that we do, whether it's riding a bicycle, if you don't do it for a while, you're going to get rusty.
yeah,
Practice leads to proficiency, and so that's how this formula works. The other thing I was reminded of, my colleague and friend and energetic guru Brian Muka, who he's awesome at saying, let's develop your emergency plan. So, and you called it out differently. You're like, if you're having a day where you're not feeling like you're feeling sad, part of your emergency plan is, let's reintroduce and remind me of yesterday, of,
yeah.
yeah, all of this, I'm bringing in false energy. This is not real. Like, this is real. And it allows yourself to remember yourself yesterday and be like, oh, okay, now I can take one step further. So this is brilliant. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, you're welcome. Welcome. I was just thinking that, sometimes in life, people will throw curveballs at us, and they start saying things or doing things that are aimed at criticizing us or making us feel less than or weak. And that's another thing that is beautiful about that journal. You could go back and reread that. I'm not weak. I did these kind of things. I was able to lift somebody else up, and we don't have to. Too often, we can, people try to get in our heads, and we allow them to get in our heads and start thinking thoughts and that are not necessarily kind, and we can push those right back out. We can push them right back out by stopping and thinking, no, I've had these experiences. I know what it feels like to feel kindness, to receive kindness. I know what it feels like to see the light come on in somebody else's eyes because I've given kindness. And I don't have to let that negative talk from other people or negative self-talk stay. Because we could, we're all our own worst critics.
Yeah.
We're all our own worst critics. And so we don't have to allow those things to come in and have sway and rule in our lives. People are going to say, well, you're just looking at life through rose-colored glasses. No, I recognize that we all have challenges every day. There's people I know that are going through tremendous challenges. One of my wonderful friends, Jody Orgo Brown, that lady has been through so many challenges. She's a tumor survivor. She had a brain tumor. She's had like 30 different surgeries because of it. Right now, she's got one of her eyes sewn shut. Like this, she walks around with one eye open and the other one is sewn shut while they're trying to fix some issues with her eyelid. And yet she does not allow that to get her down. She has her days. She wrote a book on depression called, and she points out the fact that in the middle of the word depression are the words press on. Press on. And she did. I love Jody because she totally typifies and exemplifies what it means not to let negative thoughts rule in your head. She doesn't allow her challenges to crush her. She uses them as stepping stones to move on to bigger and better things, and uses her lessons, the things that she's learned from her challenges, to lift and build everybody else.
Which is absolutely amazing. And it's an aspect that organically comes in when you're in that state, right? When you're seeing the world through the side of the coin that you want to see the world through, or that lens, because we have the choice every time to which lens are we going to view this through. And we can choose either or. And one is going to take us into, self-pity and into this, it's a side that like, I don't like to live in. Or the other is that world of possibility that you spoke of. It's curiosity. It's what is this teaching me? Oh, how big of a stepping stone is this going to be? How far am I going to be launched in here? And yeah, it's not fun at all going through that. But I'm an avid hiker, and I've come to realize the harder the hike, the better the outcome. Either the view is amazing, there's an incredible waterfall at the end, there's something that takes this whole journey, and it's like, this was worth it.
Yeah.
and how, like, all the tools that you're gathering along the way. And so this is a huge point for us to highlight here, because a lot of the listeners ask, like, well, how do you create this mindset? And because if we're stuck in this habitual pattern of seeing the wrong side of the coin each time, or the side that we don't want to see, even though we're telling ourselves, I don't want to see it, therefore I'm going to see that because that's where our focus is. How do we create this mindset?
Well, it's again, that's going to lead me into one of my other little tools called the Tada framework. Our thoughts Tada stands for thoughts, attitudes, desires, actions, habits. And the things that we think about that are going to determine the attitudes that we have, which drives the desires that we act on, which also fires the actions that we take, which creates our habits. So if we're going to develop a mindset for kindness, we have to be thinking about kind things, thinking about how can I lift and build other people, thinking about why am I good? How can I, another good friend of mine, Jairus Tucker, looks in the mirror every day and says, I love you, Jairus. Here's 5 reasons why I love you. And look in the mirror and saying, I love you, Randy. Here's 5 reasons why I love you, or I love you, Eric. Taking the time to give ourselves some love. That comes back to the definition of kindness, embracing, kindness embraces every behavior by which we show value and appreciation for ourselves and others.
Yes.
So take the time to give yourself some love every day. And then you can go forward and more easily amplify and give that love away to other people and be an instrument in lifting and building and strengthening them.
I genuinely appreciate you sharing that, Tada, because this brought back so many memories of my journey and the aha moments that I had. And, hearing Earl Nightingale say, you become what you think about all day long. The first time I heard that, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is that? But you simplified that, right? You took this cascade, this pathophysiological cascade that happens in our body, and took it down to a 5-step, like, this is what happens. And exactly.
Exactly. When the magic app, though, ta-da, I did this, ta-da.
Yes. And then, like, Bob Proctor expanded on this, at least for me, because it's not only he's a beautiful, beautiful human, but, like, he had this little stick figure, and every time I have conversations like this, the stick figure comes in mind, and it's had really big head. And around it has these almost like receptors, like a receptors on cells. And it's all of the thoughts that we have, but also all of our senses. So our touch, our smell, our hear, everything that comes in goes through our conscious mind, and we judge it. So that's the 5% that we have control on. And basically we have control to judge it. And then from that judgment drops into our subconscious, and our subconscious says, this is what we think about this input, right? And then it leads into our body, which then is our action, or our emotion, our energy in motion. So we have a thought, we judge it, good, bad, happy, sad, whatever the case may be. It's this world of dichotomies that we live in, drops into our, this is what we think about it, which is where the habits formed. And then our body follows in the direction that the subconscious reacted to that. And all of that is simplified in the Tada.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm getting lit up, because, like, this is,
and that's all in my book too. That's the Tada is framework is there in the book as well, along with the kindness giver's formula. So
which are actionable formulas that can be utilized right now. And I love that. So, okay. So the habit starts with the thought. And what happens, because we've all been through the I don't know. I'm just gonna use this example. I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm gonna start dieting. At day one, we're crushing it. We're eating salads and drinking water. And then day two, it's like, I want some chips. And then we eat the chips. And then we're like, why did I do that? I'm on a diet. And it creates a self-sabotaging effect, right?
Yeah.
So how do we change? How do we actually change this thought?
It's interesting. You should say that, because that is something I struggle with. I've struggled with my weight for most of my life. My good friend Jason Hewlett has this amazing book right here called The Promise to the One, Jason Hewlett's book. And in there, one of the chapters that really resonated with me is this chapter about his struggles with weight and health. And it talks about how he had to take a trip to Malaysia. I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm sharing one of the stories before, but he took a trip to Malaysia. I mean, he was in Michigan at an event, got a call and said, "Oh, you can do this gig in Malaysia." He had to be there like within 48 hours or less, I think it was.
Oh man.
And he's just living off energy drinks. He's living off,
right.
And he says, "I know that they're terrible for me. I got there, I got everything done, but, I was feeling terrible and I knew I shouldn't be drinking all these energy drinks. And I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to drink all these energy drinks, and I got home from the airport. And what's the first thing that I did? I walked in, opened the fridge, and there was my energy drink, and I drank it or something, right? I'm paraphrasing big time. But he says, I found the big thing that helps me. And it's the only thing I found that helps me is when I think about how I want to bless other people's lives. In order to be able to do that, I have to treat my own body, which is my production capacity. I have to treat it with care and compassion. I have to think about, I love my wife, I love my family, and put my health from a perspective, things, if I'm not taking care of me, I'm not going to be there to take care of them.
Right.
And if I'm not taking care of my production capacity, as Stephen Covey talked about our bodies being our production capacity, if we're not taking care of that production capacity, we're not going to be producing.
Right.
So I found that honestly, that is what I do the best. If I can keep focused on those things, I need to be here for me. First of all, I want to feel good. And I'm worth feeling good for.
Yes, absolutely. You are, I am, we are.
And we're worth, that's another thing, I love you, Randy. Therefore, I am going to exercise and I'm going to eat the right foods and things, because I want you to be around for a long time, and your family needs you to be around.
Right. So it's shifting perspectives, and the beautiful aspect of that analogy that you shared, and you guys should check out Jason Hewlett. He's an amazing individual, like incredible person. What I found in that so profound is the humanness within that so I literally heard I am because we are. So the effects of people around me have a positive or negative effect on me, that, but also reverse. So we are because I am. And if I am the best that I can be, which is everything that you went through, I love me and care about me enough that I'm not going to punish you for exercise. I actually love you enough to exercise you, to modify what goes in this body. So then the self and the collective, the community, whether like the family, the community, the groups, the teams, the organizations, whatever, become better because of that. I don't even want to say work, because it's not work, but that self-compassion and that self-love to put my own kindness, my own love into action.
Yeah.
So I resonate deeply with that analogy. So I appreciate you giving a hat tip to Jason and sharing the spoiler alert.
There's a lot more. There's so much more in that book. Great book. Well worth the purchase and the read.
Yeah.
Something that just keeps popping back in my head. I want to say something. We hear about random acts of kindness all the time. random acts of kindness. I'm here to state and to make the argument that there are no random acts of kindness. There aren't any. Every time we choose
Yeah.
to, we're kind. We choose to be kind. What there are is lots of random opportunities to be kind. We're presented with random opportunities every day. And that's why I think step 3 in my formula is the most important part of that entire formula is looking for and acting on opportunities to be kind. It's amazing what we can see when we're actually intentionally looking for those opportunities.
Yes.
So kindness. Here's one other thing. I want to throw something else out there because
Please.
alluded to it a little bit earlier, is courageous kindness. A definition of courageous kindness. It's the willingness to act in kindness and to love people regardless of the situation. Is it easy? No. That's why it's called courageous kindness. It's like you were talking about. It's hard. There are times, if somebody's berating you, how are you going to feel love or caring or kindness towards that person? It's really hard. It's not easy. But when we can step up and step in to courageous kindness in those situations, we can totally change their lives. There's a scripture. I'm gonna wax religious for 30 seconds here. There's a scripture that says, "A soft answer turneth away wrath." And there was a leader from my church way back when. Ezra Taft Benson was the Secretary of Agriculture under Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he had to go before Congress and was continually having to testify, about his agriculture policies and the things that he was doing, et cetera, et cetera. And they were constantly ripping on him, constantly, throwing, trying to throw him under the bus, doing all these different things. One day his secretary said to him, "How do you do it?" Because what he was referring to is he always remained calm in the face of every thing that they could throw at him. Ezra Taft Benson always remained calm. And his secretary is, "How on earth do you do that? How do you do it?" And he says, "I just keep in mind a soft answer turneth away wrath."
Mm.
And when we can, in other words, when we can be kind in situations when other people are being unkind to us, we can diffuse a lot of the anger, a lot of the drama and stuff around that. And people who were critical of Ezra Taft Benson, overall found it really hard not to like him.
Yeah.
Because of how he treated them and how he acted. We can be the same way. We can act with that courageous kindness, and it'll make it really hard for other people not to like us.
Right. Reminds me of something my wife does really well. Something she taught me as we were learning parenting together was when someone raises their voice, if you lower yours and soften it, it diffuses the situation and it lowers them down to you as opposed. So one person is going to mirror the other, right? And this is, I'm a study of human behavior. So this is why this fascinates me is I can either mirror and raise myself up to their escalation, or I can lower and invite them into this area. And so, and the outcome's better. I'm calmer. There's less energy expunged. And it's like, okay, I can work on this and improve this. She's a master at it. I'm still in elementary school when it comes to this training. But
bring out your 5-year-old self in that situation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly.
Can I share one other story? You just
yes.
Get something that's
please
related to that. Because there are times when people might expect us to react with anger. In a situation, not nobody's being unkind to us. Because a situation happens, and they expect, oh, they're waiting to see if we explode or whatever.
Yeah.
My wonderful friend Zach Demopoulos, when he was a teenager, he worked for his father Zach is Zach Demopoulos Jr. His father was Zach Sr. And his father owned a hamburger joint called Zach's Hamburgers. And he learned a lesson of a lifetime from his father in a situation that happened. When he was like 14 years old, he was there one night, and it was late. It was closing time. And his father Zach saw this happen. His father caught one of his employees, a lady who had, had been working for him for a little while, and she had several children at home. He caught her stuffing hamburgers into her purse. And Zach says, I was sitting there thinking, I said, oh my gosh, what's Dad going to do? Is he going to yell at her? Is he going to call the police? Is he going to kick her out? Is he going to fire her? All these different things were going through his head. And then he learned the lesson of a lifetime. His father just said, when he caught the lady, and then he says, I'm sorry. What? Zach's sitting there thinking, what? His father says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I haven't been kind enough to you or nice enough to you that you could feel like you could come to me and ask me for help if you needed help. I promise that if you'll stay with me, I'll do better. He could have fired her. He could have called the police. He could have done a multitude of things. But in that moment, he extended the arm of mercy. He extended the arm of love through kindness. He showed that lady a tremendous kindness. And you know what happened because of that? That not only did that lady stay, she stayed with him for 15 more years, and she became his absolute best employee. And you think about how many ripples went out because of that experience. First of all, that lady, I can guarantee you, she went home with a heart filled and bursting and overflowing with gratitude for Zach's dad. Zach's dad was on the hero pedestal, clear up here that night. And I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm sitting here, that she told her kids that story. Because later on, when Zach Sr. passed away, more than 15 years later, 20 years later, who was sitting on the front row with all her kids at that funeral? This lady was sitting right there on the front row. And Zach talked about how, he observed what his father did. And he said, that has impacted me throughout my entire life, Randy. In my career in HR, when there were times when people were in challenging situations, when their bosses wanted to fire them, et cetera, I've been able to step in and get their side of the story and prevent tragedies from happening, extending mercy toward them. I even had the opportunity to say the same words as my father with one man, where I was able to say, I'm sorry, and extend the arm of mercy towards someone who had done something that could have landed them in jail, but instead he gave them a hand up and helped them change and become a better person. That's the power of kindness. That's the power of extending mercy. And you think about the connection that was made there.
Yes.
Decades later, Zach still remembers that. It's right here on his heart. His father painted, it's like his father engraved love there through that one experience. I guarantee that lady's children all have love engraved on their heart. That lady has love engraved on her heart because of that. And people, when they hear those kind of stories, it engraves it in their hearts. They think, that's real connection. That's what life should be about caring about people enough to extend mercy and extend kindness and invite them to the table of love and kindness with us.
And that is a pure example of how we heal humanity through connection, true connection, of vulnerability, of, going in with a curious mindset of, our ego says they're stealing from us. Well, curiosity in our 5-year-old self says, what's going on, right? What role do I play in this, first of all, which is huge. And that is strength.
Yeah.
Up here, right? And offering compassion, grace. And and the ripple, you talked about ripple effect. You told me that story of a time that happened decades ago, and I felt the energy as if it just happened. Similar thing happened with a conversation with Dr. Elias. Like, these are the impactful, this is how we impact humanity, because when we do these, it's not a one and done. we have the ability to shift things in not only other people's lives, but our lives. And the stories that come out of these are stories of human connection, and it's bringing everyone together through these intentional acts of kindness through random opportunities.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
said that correctly.
Good. You
So,
did.
thank you so much for sharing that. And this leads into, I would love for you to talk about the project that you and our dear friend are working on and soon to be brought into the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're our company. I'm partnered with Dr. Ila Gorgoris and another wonderful man named Elgin Cahill. We're the founders of an organization called the Kindness Factory International. We're a voice for kindness in entertainment. We've had the wonderful privilege of partnering with another fantastic organization called Kindness Worldwide, with the founder Kevin Smith, and he's got his sidekick or his one of his chief officers, Michael Binko, and we're filming a film called For Such a Time as This. And the simple definition of that, or explanation for that, is it's a wonderful film that shares the story of kindness worldwide and how it got created, and Kevin Smith's story woven with that. But then there's a whole bunch of other stories of people who have been connected as a result of what happened with Kevin Smith and Kindness Worldwide. People who have jumped on what I'll call the kindness train, and who have personal stories that are powerful, life-changing stories because of kindness. And we're going to share those transformative stories in a way, weave together in a way that's magical, because our director, Elgin Cahill, is a master storyteller, but it's weaved together in a way that's going to reach out and grab people's hearts. And, our whole objective with this is to inspire people to get involved with building cultures of kindness in communities throughout the world. That's what Kindness Worldwide is all about. And that's why we're so powerfully behind and passionate about supporting them, because our world, if there ever was a time in the history of man when greater love was needed, that time is now. We need love. We need love everywhere we can get it. And how do you deliver it? Like I said at the beginning, I'll bring it back around. Kindness is love's delivery agent. It's the mechanism for delivering love. It's love in action. And For Such a Time as This does that. It wraps it up in a beautiful package, shares the story, the powerful story, and showcases the powerful transformative capabilities and effect of simple acts of kindness to touch hearts, change lives, and even save lives. So I think your audience, our audience, the people who see that film are going to be inspired, motivated, and uplifted, and have a desire to go out and pay it forward. And that's, if we reach that goal, if we inspire people to want to pay it forward as a result of watching our film, we will have accomplished our goal.
And I have no doubt that will be the trajectory of this film. I had the privilege of seeing a 2 to 3 minute clip, and it's so fascinating that my journey began with a perspective shift. It began with my wife saying, find something good because it's there. You just have to find it. Stop looking. Ultimately, what she was saying is, Eric, stop looking for the things that you don't want and look for the amazing goodness that is in your everyday life. And we tend to forget about that. We get in these habitual patterns. And what I saw in the film was someone making one decision to do things differently. And it wasn't a huge difference, but it was enough to come into a situation and allow the other ones to say, I feel safe. I feel trusted. I feel like a human being.
Yeah.
And if one person can come into a group and have that effect and continue that into a community, I mean, these waves are impossible to stop. And that chasm is almost crossed, I feel. And once that chasm crosses, it's like this ripple into the world. I'm very excited for this to come out and to watch it, and to not only watch it, but to feel it feel the other stories, to feel the storytelling, because I mean, since the beginning of time, ever since we had literature, in order to read what people have written and communicated, we communicate through stories.
Yeah.
Why? Because we can all resonate with the story, even if it's something that has nothing to do with what we do or know. We can still insert ourselves in the story and still have empathy for the situation going on. I'm excited to watch this, but I'm more excited to see the how much bigger the ripples will turn into waves, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. And I'm excited for you and the team, Randy. Truly, I am.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Eric. And thank you so much for giving me the wonderful opportunity of conversing with you today. I've really enjoyed my time here.
It's my pleasure. Always my pleasure, man. You're just a beam of light that is so much fun and energetic, and I love talking to you. So, is there anything that maybe we didn't cover that you wanna hit?
You know, I just want to share one simple thought. You know, if you can think about this every day, get up and think, love people,
Hmm.
love people. And how do I do that? I use the simple kindness givers formula. I go out and deliver love through kindness. You know, it's easy to allow life sometimes to get in and knock us down, but we can pick ourselves back up and we can pick other people up. And if we just keep in our heads, I need to love people, and that'll make a difference. And here's a simple motto: you can't fail with kindness.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Beautifully put. Oh, where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, all at Captain Kindman. On YouTube, it's at I am Captain Kindman.
Perfect.
But and I have my website is coming. I have a website. You know, I had a website, randymcneely.com. I transferred that over to captainkindman.com. I'm in the process of finalizing that website, and it'll be released soon.
Perfect. And we will have all of those links down below to make it super easy for people to connect with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. And thanks for sharing your heart with the world, Randy.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks again, Eric. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and thank you for being the good man you are, for providing this fantastic platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to leave with this one thought that came into mind as you were wrapping up is, if hurt people, that means loved people love people. So if we offer kindness and love to one another and they feel this love, they're simply going to love others as well. And this is going to reciprocate. And this idea is amazing. And I'm so excited to be in this space. So guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. And I'm excited to see you on the next one. And until then, be well, be loved.
Thanks, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to Pep Talks with Eric. If something sparked today, pass it forward. Remember to subscribe and share it with someone who needs it. Keep doing the thing. Keep showing up. You're not alone in this. And we're not whole without you. I'll see you next time.